It's the day after of the Duo demos, and still
Yeah,
here.
really not a lot to say. So I guess we'll see you guys on Thursday.
It was a classic Microsoft event.
Oh my God. It was actually worse than a classic Microsoft event. I feel like they're devolving. They're like flowers from Algernon. They're getting like dumber. They
Look,
literally, remember I guess it was the October event where they brought in like enthusiasts to
yeah.
cheer for them.
Oh,
And
yeah. That side of
it
it. I thought.
really interrupted a lot. Well, they did it again, Brad. And this time, what we got to see multiple times in the feed was a guy next to the cameras turning to that audience, prompting them to clap, and then giving them the thumbs up when they did.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. It was like, I understand that sometimes they don't want silence for everything. I understand that, but like the person literally clicked on an icon and an app opened and people are clapping. Like, this is.
Brad, I'm sorry. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What episode number is this? Would you say?
760, like 7 maybe.
Okay. So over 750 times, you and I have sat here, sans audience and clapping, and just talked into a camera. And by the way, Microsoft has classes for their employees on how to do just that.
Yeah.
This was a virtual event. Did not need a live audience.
Yeah, it probably would have been better too, because for those who watch it, which I think everybody who's vaguely interested in should try to go watch it. Although, interestingly enough, Paul, I can't imagine why, but their initial, like, sort of, I guess you call it a keynote, like when Kevin Gallo was up on stage, which he did a great job given the circumstances. They haven't put it back up yet, and I don't know why. But Raphael,
Right. That's right.
Raphael found it and posted it to his personal YouTube, so you can go watch it again. I don't know if they're trying to edit it out or re-record it, but for those who aren't familiar, Kevin pulled out a Surface Duo, and it crashed. It's early software, it's early hardware. That's fine. So he pulls out a second one. It crashes too. That didn't go so great, and so he just then the worst part is there was like this one real awkward applause like after it crashed. Like you heard like somebody go, and like somebody just backstage is going like just. Yeah,
well, I listen.
Yeah,
I tweeted this at the time. I am ecstatic that they're providing us with this information this early, and I am not going to complain because this pre-production unit didn't work properly. It is so early. It's fine. Yep. But that little clap that you just talked about, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And I hope they learn their lesson from this, because having mindless goons clap at nothing is the problem with that event and the problem with what they're doing recently. And it is a huge problem. So hopefully lesson learned, and we'll see. But whatever. What happened yesterday was still
it was very valuable,
important, and newsworthy and valuable information, not just for developers, although I'm sure there's lots of good information there, but for enthusiasts and for the whole community, because they're moving this platform forward. We've talked about this. They've tried multiple times to kind of get away from the legacy past. I think they finally come to understand that they don't have to. They can't embrace it. I mean, we're not going to go back to Win32. I mean, if my experience developing that stupid Notepad clone has taught me anything, like this stuff it's over. Like I understand why Microsoft moved forward the way that they. Well, I don't actually understand UWP, but it was a little. I understand them trying to move forward. I guess maybe that's the right way to say it. They should have done things a little bit differently. But when you look at what the story is today, Windows is in many ways, and Windows 10X will be what it should be, which is a modern platform that supports the full range of applications that Windows users expect.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. And so there's obviously UWP is the native platform, but since no one can come up with a single example of a good UWP app, not really. They will also support all the Win32 stuff. They'll support the web apps, and developers have that choice. And that's people. I got this today. I spent an inordinate amount of time in the comments this morning because, of course, yesterday was a big day, Samsung and Microsoft.
Yep.
And people are still. It's interesting to me that people sort of think, well, what's the developer story? Is there like this, as if there's going to be a new platform? I once again have an eyelash in my eye. It's fantastic. Contacts are the best. This is the developer story. It's everything. It's whatever you want. There is no new platform coming. The things that made UWP good, right? power management, the mobile app philosophy where things suspend automatically and gracefully and you don't lose data and all that stuff. That's all still good. It's all still there. It's if you have an app that you want to create for some reason that supports that stuff, you can use UWP, but it supports the older stuff too. And I think honestly, they never said this, but I don't expect there to be new app development for Windows 10X. Not really. I mean, there will be some, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But what this is really about is taking your existing apps and, if necessary, tailoring them for this dual screen experience, right? So most apps will just kind of run.
Yeah. And
And
I
one
think
day,
that's the whole point, right? That's the whole
yeah,
point of the containers. That is the biggest
yeah,
difference between this and everything else is that every app inside of on Windows 10X, I should say,
yes.
is
And
running
I
in a
will say
container.
that was news, right? So there
Yeah,
was some real
really big
news to
news.
this. And you and I had heard it as long ago as a year ago. I think it was a year ago that containers were part of this platform. This is when we thought it was more of a kind of a Chrome OS kind of a thing, and didn't know anything about dual screens. And that story is, of course, is true, but is more nuanced than I had expected or thought. And
Mm-hmm.
all Win32 apps are going to run in a single container, not each app in its own container. So this is very much like when Apple made the transition from classic Mac to Mac OS 10, where they had a single environment for all those classic apps. MSIX apps, which are basically, we'll call them correctly packaged Win32 apps, will run in a container within a container, which is kind of interesting. But they support special features like one click on install, etc. And then, of course, the big thing is the UWP app. Well, not the big thing. The other thing is that the UWP apps will run each in their own container, as they do essentially today. Basically, they're sandboxed.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all the interaction bits that maybe I don't think people have to know any of this stuff. Cut and paste works, of course.
Unless it's a demo on stage with Notepad.
Yes. I think the assumption for modern OS in 2020 is that these are of course, inter-app communication is going to occur. I don't think anyone cares how it works. Like, who cares? But whatever. We need to see it in real life. I mean, the emulator is interesting, but we need to see what the performance is. There's obviously going to be a performance
That's the big one, is the Win32 performance. That's the big unknown, right?
It is. But they're going to improve compatibility and performance over time.
Yep.
And when you look at this thing compared to Windows RT, Windows 10 in S mode, Windows 10 on ARM, the big difference is all apps will eventually work. Or we'll say, at least it supports those platforms. Like, most apps will just work. There are some specifics to the platform around tray notifications, right click on a file explorer, whatever special features apps might have had that might not work.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not abandoning the past. And I mean, I just think that's huge. This has as I wrote this, I mean, this is Microsoft's modern attempt at doing NT again, where if this thing is good enough, if it improves enough over the next couple of years or whatever, it could become Windows. And I think, look, we've been talking about this for years, the need to, we have to bring the past forward, but we have to contain it somehow and protect it from the system, Yes.
Got it. Yep. Sorry, little giddy.
What's bad?
The big thing I want to know too is, so we've seen a narrative from Microsoft of moving away from legacy, not only software, but hardware, right? With ARM, and now we have containers and all that stuff. I'm very curious to see how this would run on an ARM processor. I'm just curious because think about it from this way. If it runs well, Microsoft has completely removed that crutch that they had in the past, where it's got to be x86 and it's got to be Win32. And now they've decoupled that narrative from how they build things going forward.
In the beginning, there was a bit where Intel was creating a processor that had big cores and little cores. And that's how ARM.
Well, hold on. Can we talk about that for a second? They made a big deal about how they have these big core, little cores, and everyone over in ARM camp is like, really?
Yes. Thank you for congratulating something on yourself that we've had for 20 years or whatever it is.
This is Apple walking up on stage and saying, when they put the mouse officially on the iPad, they're gonna be like, yeah, we put the mouse on the iPad.
I know. It's courageous. They're amazing. No, but look, it's interesting because that raises some questions. Are there going to be Windows 10X specific devices that use that architecture that run more efficiently? And of course, that challenges ARM, because the thing you are going to get on Intel you aren't going to get on ARM is full compatibility, or as full as the compatibility can be. ARM, these containers aren't going to help ARM run 64-bit apps. I mean, you still have that architectural problem there. So um, there are a lot of questions raised by this new Core thing because it means that Intel's making a new type of processor that's more like a mobile processor, but still compatible with their other stuff. Will classic Win32 apps run less efficiently on those machines? I got to be honest, I don't think so, other than the container overhead, because you review laptops and use lots of different laptops. We moved from dual core to quad core machines, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was. Yep. There's no difference in day to day in Office and on web browsers. So I honestly, I mean, this could be the best of both worlds. I think we have to speculate a little bit. Like Lenovo announced a ThinkPad that could run 10X or Windows 10 Pro. Will the inside of that machine be exactly the same? Or will the Windows 10X version have that new type of Intel processor? And then they'll sell the same machine, but with different insides, with a classic Intel processor that runs Windows 10 Pro. I don't know. They know. We don't know. But this is the big platform shift. I mean, the reason I'm so excited about this is because, NT was obviously a big deal. And the fascinating thing about NT is that when you get to Windows XP, where they actually made the shift to that platform, it was just like a Windows upgrade. So if you were using Windows 95 before that, and you went to Windows XP, I mean, it looked different because they make those changes all the time. But the user didn't have to understand that the entire platform had changed underneath them. That shift took, we'll call it 8 years, 93 from the first version of NT to 2001. And so here we are in 2020. They can't take 8 years to make this shift. But these things will sit alongside each other, like NT and 9X or 3X or whatever did. And we'll see. I look, there was a brief period of time where I thought like maybe they wanted RT to be this future, if we could just abandon classic desktop applications and get rid of all that legacy deadwood and the insecurity that comes with it and the battery life problems and, all the same things we still talk about today with Windows 10 and ARM. We have a modern platform.
Yeah, Paul, it's almost like they're extending, and then they're gonna
replace,
extinguish.
I look. I want. There's been a lot of. I literally just spent like 40 minutes trying, sifting through the comments, and it was a particularly brutal day. Again because there's a lot of activity over this, and there's people who are very excited about this. Of course, and there are people who are less than excited. They disappointed maybe in what they saw. There are people. People get really. We're enthusiasts, right? So people get really particular. I rely on a specific tray app or something, but I need this right-click thing in File Explorer where I can do a screenshot or whatever it is and have it saved to Dropbox or something. We look. There are always going to be these particulars. Any compatibility conversation you have, like Windows 10 and ARM, I've often said, there's this one thing that may prevent you from using this platform. It might be a printer driver you rely on, or Adobe Photoshop or something, or whatever it is. That's going to be a problem with 10X in the beginning. But the difference here is that it's going to get better over time, and it will never be 100%. But Windows 10 is not 100% compared to what you could have run on Windows 98 or something. I mean, things evolve.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we're obviously, as you pointed out, we're still in the very early days of this stuff. The hardware and software aren't going to ship until later this year. Microsoft isn't officially saying when this is coming to other hardware other than dual screens, but we all know that's just smoke and mirrors until it actually ships.
Well, here's one indication. I mean, to even run the emulator, you have to have a fast ring build of Windows 10, which means you're running 20H2. I don't have one of those, Brad, so I'm installing it now. But I think it's safe to say this is going to be tied somehow to the release of that version of Windows 10.
Oh, sure.
Put it that way. So that's the second half of the year.
Yep.
I think we talked about the IFA. I think it's going to be the time frame. That's when you're going to start seeing these machines announced again, or whatever. So.
Yeah, we'll see. We shouldn't have to wait too long. I'll be curious to see. So now that they kind of got this, I don't know, nugget out there, we've got build coming up in a few weeks.
Yep.
More than a few weeks, I guess, but month and a half, 2 months, something like that, whatever it is. That's the next big time where we're probably going to hear more about this, and then we'll see.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yes.
So, and then the other thing yesterday, which I honestly did not watch at all, and I don't feel like I missed anything, was the Samsung event. They announced the Flip Z, which they already advertised during the Oscars. Then the Galaxy S20 with 10x optical, 10x digital for 100x zoom. They announced anything else? I didn't even.
Well, there's the Galaxy Buds Plus or whatever they're called, which basically has doubled the battery life. I use the original version at the gym every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I love them. I can't use them on walks because, I guess as I'm walking, they're kind of moving around and they do that little, they think they're disconnected. And so they make that little beep,
Yeah.
Indicating they've reconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really irritating. But at the gym, when I'm just, if I'm on a elliptical trainer or if I'm just obviously going from machine to machine, they're fine. And they work great. I like the convenience of them. They offer some sort of a passive noise canceling functionality because they block up your ear, so they're not like real noise canceling. But on the recent flights I was on, I did use them for a bit. Yeah, it's nice. They're nice. So I mean, double the battery life is. I don't think anyone's going to complain. The battery life's already pretty good, but I think it went from like 6 to 11, and then you get another 11 with the case, and I think you can charge like 90 minutes in like 3 minutes or something like that. It's really, it's good.
Yeah. So there you go. Expensive though. I think the Flip Z was over $1,000, like 1,300 or something like that.
Yeah. And also the big, whatever, the S20 Ultra, whatever they're calling it. So I have reserved one of those.
Of course you have.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thinking, because I don't spend enough money on stuff I don't like. I think it's going to be like $1,300 or something like that. But they're offering a really good trade-in values on the phone that I have, which is like a Note 10 Plus. So they're going to give me $700 for that thing.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
That's $700.
Yeah.
That's actually really good. I mean, I probably paid $1,000.
Didn't you just give that to your wife?
Well, that's one option, but the truth is I don't actually want the biggest one. But it's the only one that comes with that camera.
Yeah.
And this is like the 108 megapixel, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't actually order it yet. You just kind of reserve it. At some point, they're going to let you make the order, and it's not until March when it comes. So between now and then, I'm hoping to read and see photo examples that will prove whether or not this is a viable possibility. Because the concern for me is the camera. And I don't know if you saw this, by the way. When I was in Florida, there was a beautiful moon out, and I was trying to use the Pixel to take pictures of it. It was impossible. And I was like, I'll try the Huawei, And Huawei has, actually, I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but it's like some kind of a hybrid zoom where I think it's like 5x or maybe 8x optical. It's probably 5x. And then it does like hybrid after that. And I think that the presets on the screen, it might be something like 10x is the biggest. And I was it was like pretty good. You could kind of see the little crater outlines and everything. And then I just decided to pinch a little bit, and you can pinch that thing all the way up to 30x. And I took an unbelievable photo of the moon with a phone.
Yeah.
Like it's on Instagram if you want to see it, but it's optical zoom would be good is what I'm trying to say. And so if they can get that stuff right, it's kind of a game changer. So I'm going to look at it. We'll see. I have time. It's not like I knee jerk to spend $1,300. Like we'll see. But if it works out, I mean, what's what I say 700? So like $600.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad. It's like I'm making money, Brad.
I'll tell you what, if you spending $600 is you making money, I got some great deals for you, Mr. Paul Thurrow. How do you feel about a Surface Book 2? You can
better than I feel about a Surface Book 1.
Fair. How about a Surface Book 1 with performance base?
Yeah, I have one of those sitting, probably burning a hole in my solar
Why
floor.
did they do that with this thing? That's what they should announce. It's just
performance base.
Yeah, just go.
Well, I think Surface Book 2 technically is just performance base, isn't it? Pretty much what that was. No.
No, because it's got a new. I think performance base wasn't only the GPU. This got a GPU and a CPU upgrade.
Okay, but I mean, but I mean, like that basic form factor where it's both.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying, in other words, do an interim upgrade where it's they actually update the like. Okay,
That
yeah,
yeah,
that would be one way to do it. Yeah,
just update the GPU in this thing. That would probably be enough, but whatever.
yeah. I
I
feel
don't make
like
the
that
rules.
that hasn't happened means we're gonna get a three. They're gonna have to call it three. You know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what's coming this spring. So we'll
Yeah.
see if they have an event.
Yeah.
We'll find out. You got anything else for today?
No.
Good, because I don't either. So, folks, that wraps it up for today. We'll catch all of you right back here tomorrow, probably. What is today? Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Oh,